The meeting hall of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal floors. Beings from 48 different worlds sat in their designated sections, some breathing oxygen, others suspended in liquid tanks, and a few existing as pure energy contained in force fields. At the far end of the chamber, in a small corner seat marked with a blue and green symbol, Ambassador Yuna Kim sat perfectly still. She had been sitting in that same seat for 20 years. In all that time, she had spoken exactly 17 times during official sessions. The other council members barely noticed her anymore. Earth was just another young species, barely worth remembering. Yuna watched as the Valoran representative, a massive reptilian creature named Raxes, stood on his speaking platform. His scales gleamed under the chamber lights as he raised his clawed hand. "The Council recognizes the need for greater resource management," Raxes announced, his voice booming through the translation devices everyone wore. Younger species waste valuable materials. They lack the wisdom to use them properly. We propose Resolution 7749. A holographic document appeared in the center of the chamber. Yuna read it carefully, her face showing nothing. The resolution demanded that all younger species surrender 60% of their rare minerals and 40% of their food production to Council oversight. It also required them to dissolve their military forces and rely on Council protection instead. Around the chamber, representatives from other younger species shifted nervously. Some whispered to their aides. Others looked down at their desks, already defeated. The Corthan representative, speaking with the unified voice of their hive mind, added their support. "This is for the good of the galaxy. Resources must be managed by those with experience." The Ashura Collective, beings of pure telepathic energy, shimmered in agreement. "We sense no malice in this proposal, only efficiency." One by one, the major powers voiced their approval. The younger species said nothing. What could they say? The Council had made its decision long before this meeting. When the vote came, Yuna pressed a single button on her desk. A small red light appeared next to Earth's symbol. 1 vote against. 47 votes in favor. Resolution 7749 passed. Raxes looked directly at Yuna for the first time in years. His lips curled into something that might have been a smile. "Does the Earth representative wish to explain her vote?" Yuna stood slowly. Every eye in the chamber turned to her. She was small compared to most beings there, dressed in a simple black suit, her dark hair pulled back in a neat style. "No explanation needed," she said quietly. "Earth votes no." She sat back down. The chamber erupted in low murmurs and clicking sounds that served as laughter among some species. The human had voted no. How cute. How meaningless. The session ended. Yuna gathered her materials and walked out through the massive doors. Her assistant, a young man named Minho, who handled communications, fell into step beside her. "They're sending enforcement ships," Minho said softly. 3 of them. "They'll reach the Sol system in 2 weeks. Yuna nodded. "Expected. Send the message home. Tell them exactly what I told you to say if this happened." Minho pulled out a small communication device. His fingers moved across it quickly, typing out the encrypted message. Just 4 words. They crossed the line. 12,000 light years away, Captain Minho Park stood on the bridge of Horizon's Edge, a small monitoring station at the edge of Earth's solar system. He was the same Minho who had once served as an assistant, now promoted to his own command. The station wasn't much to look at, just a cluster of modules connected by corridors. With a crew of 30 people, Minho read the message from Ambassador Yuna 3 times. Then he called his senior staff to the bridge. "Orders from Earth," he told them. 3 council ships are coming. They'll arrive in 14 days. We're to deny them passage. His second in command, a woman named Hana Lee, raised her eyebrows. Deny passage to Council warships? With what? We've got 4 plasma cannons and shields that can barely stop a meteorite. Minho smiled slightly. We've got more than that. We've always had more than that. He walked to a console and entered a command code that he'd been given 5 years ago with strict instructions, never to use it unless absolutely necessary. The station's computer accepted the code. Suddenly, new systems appeared on every screen. Weapons that didn't exist in any official records. Shields operating on principles the Council had never seen. Hana stared at the displays. How long have these been here? Since the station was built, Minho said. We just never turned them on. Back on Earth, in a facility hidden beneath the Swiss mountains, Dr. Hannah Lee worked at her research station. She shared a name with Minho's second-in-command but had never met her. This Hana was responsible for humanity's greatest secret, quantum manipulation technology. On her screens, she could see the Council's 3 enforcement ships moving through space. Heading toward Earth, she calculated their route, their speed, and the exact moment they would reach the Sol system. Then she sent activation codes to every hidden platform humanity had built in the darkness between planets. There were thousands of them. Small, silent, invisible to Council sensors. Each one capable of tearing apart matter at the molecular level. Admiral Jiho Kang stood in the command center of Earth's actual military headquarters, watching the same displays. He was an old man now, with gray hair and tired eyes. He'd spent 40 years preparing for this moment, hoping it would never come. How many ships do we have ready? He asked his aide. All of them, sir. 3,000 automated vessels. Another 500 with human crews. All using the new quantum drives. Jiho nodded. And the Council thinks we have what? 50 ships? 73, according to their intelligence. All using old fusion drives that they sold us a century ago. Jiho allowed himself a small smile. Let's keep it that way for now. Don't activate anything yet. Let's see if they'll listen to reason first. The 2 weeks passed quickly. On Earth, people went about their daily lives, unaware that everything was about to change. The news networks didn't report the approaching Council ships. The government said nothing publicly. But in orbit, in hidden facilities, on distant stations, humanity prepared. When the 3 Council warships finally emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, Captain Minho was waiting for them. His station sensors locked onto them immediately. The ships were massive, each one 10 times larger than Horizon's Edge. Their weapons could level a city. Their shields could withstand nuclear explosions. Minho opened a communication channel. Council vessels, this is Horizon's Edge. You are ordered to turn back. You do not have permission to enter this system. The response came after a few seconds. A Valaran captain appeared on the screen, looking amused. Human Station, we are here on official Council business. We will proceed to Earth. Move aside. Minho kept his voice calm. This is your first warning. Turn back now. The Council ships didn't slow down. They continued moving forward, weapon systems powering up as they prepared to disable what they thought was a weak human outpost. Minho gave them 2 more warnings. Both were ignored. Finally, he looked at Hana at her station. She nodded, ready. You were warned, Minho said into the communication channel. Then he gave the order that would change the galaxy forever. Fire. The weapons that emerged from Horizon's Edge didn't look like any weapon the Council had ever seen. No missiles launched. No energy beams fired. Instead, space itself seemed to ripple around the 3 Council warships. The Valaran captain had just enough time to look, confused before his ship started to come apart. Not exploding. Not burning. Simply separating into smaller and smaller pieces, breaking down at the molecular level until there was nothing left but atoms floating in space. It took 3 seconds. 3 Council warships became clouds of particles, then dispersed into nothing. No debris, no survivors. Just empty space where moments before there had been 3 massive vessels of war. On horizon's edge, the crew stood in stunned silence. They had known their station had hidden weapons, but they hadn't known what those weapons could do. Hannah checked her instruments 3 times, making sure the readings were correct. "They're gone," she whispered. "Completely gone." Captain Minho sat in his chair, his hands gripping the armrests. He had just killed hundreds of beings. The order had been necessary, authorized by Earth's highest command. But that didn't make it easier. "Send the recording to Earth Command," he said quietly, "and broadcast it on all Council frequencies. Let them see what happened." Within hours, every species in the galaxy had seen the footage. A small human station destroying 3 Council warships without taking a single hit. The images spread through the galactic networks, watched by billions of beings on thousands of worlds. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Ambassador Yuna walked into the chamber like she owned it. For 200 years, she had sat quietly in her corner seat, voting when required, speaking only when necessary. Now, she walked down the center aisle while every representative watched her. She didn't go to her assigned seat. Instead, she walked directly to the center of the chamber, where only the council chairman was supposed to stand. Raxes rose from his seat, his scales flushing dark with anger. "You have no right to stand there, human." Yuna looked up at him. She was half his size, but something in her eyes made him take a step back. "I have every right," she said, her voice carrying through the chamber without any need for amplification. "Because for 200 years, you have mistaken Earth's silence for weakness. You have mistaken our patience for fear. Today, that ends." She touched a control on her wrist. A holographic display appeared above the chamber, showing the destruction of the 3 council ships from multiple angles. "You sent those ships to enforce Resolution 7749, Yuna continued. "You sent them to take our resources, to disband our military, to make us servants of the council. We said no. You didn't listen. So we made you understand." The Ashira Collective's speaker shimmered forward. "You murdered council peacekeepers. This is an act of war." Yuna turned to face the energy being. They were not peacekeepers. They were enforcers coming to subjugate a sovereign world. We warned them 3 times. They chose not to listen. The responsibility for their deaths lies with those who sent them. The chamber erupted in angry voices, clicking sounds, and telepathic bursts of emotion. Yuna waited for them to quiet down. When they didn't, she simply raised her voice. "Enough!" The word echoed through the chamber. Everyone fell silent. "For 200 years, Earth has been part of this council," Yuna said. "We have followed your rules. We have paid your taxes. We have limited ourselves according to your treaties. We did this because we believed in the idea of a galactic community. We hoped that you would evolve, that the council would become a true alliance of equals." She paused, looking around at every representative. "We were wrong. You built a system of oppression where the strong exploit the weak. You call it order. You call it wisdom. We call it what it is, tyranny." Raxes slammed his clawed hand on his desk. "You dare lecture us? You are one small planet with a handful of ships. The Council's combined fleet numbers in the thousands. We will crush your defiance." Yuna smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. "Please try," she said softly. "I invite you to try." She touched her wrist control again. The holographic display changed, showing a map of the galaxy. Highlighted in blue were Council military installations, shipyards, and fleet positions. Highlighted in red were thousands of points scattered across space. Many of them in systems the Council had never known humans visited. These red markers represent Earth's actual military assets, Una explained. Automated platforms, mining stations, manufacturing facilities, warships. We've been building for 2 centuries while you thought we were sitting quietly in our one little system. The chamber went dead silent. Each of those red markers represents technology you cannot match, Una continued. Weapons operating on principles your scientists haven't discovered yet. Ships faster than anything in your fleets. Defenses that your weapons cannot penetrate. She let that sink in for a moment. But here is what truly separates us from you. We could have used these capabilities decades ago. We could have conquered the Council. We could have taken whatever we wanted. We chose not to. We chose peace. We chose to wait and hope you would become better. Una's voice grew harder. Resolution 7749 proves you will never become better on your own. So now, Earth issues its own resolution. We will not follow your dictates. We will not surrender our sovereignty. We will not allow you to continue exploiting younger species. This ends now. The Corthan representative spoke with their hive's unified voice. What are you proposing, human? I'm not proposing anything, Una said. I'm telling you how things will be. Resolution 7749 is void. Any attempt to enforce it on Earth or any other species will be met with immediate response. The Council's fleet will not approach the Sol system. Any ship that does will be destroyed. Raxi stood again, his whole body shaking with rage. You cannot dictate terms to the Council. We are the power in this galaxy. You were, Una corrected. Past tense. Now you're just the first ones to learn a difficult lesson. True power isn't the ability to dominate others. It's the wisdom to know when not to. She turned and began walking back toward the exit. As she passed her old corner seat, she paused. Oh, and one more thing. We've been monitoring your communications for the past 50 years. We know about the secret weapons programs. We know about the exploitation treaties you hide from public view. We know about the civilizations you've destroyed. All of that information is being released to every species in the galaxy right now. The chamber exploded in chaos. Representatives shouted at each other, accused each other, demanded explanations. Una kept walking, not looking back. Outside the chamber, her aide Minho waited with a worried expression. Do you think they'll back down? He asked. Una shook her head. No, they're too proud. They'll gather their fleets and come at us with everything they have. And then? Then we teach them why humanity's greatest strength was never our weapons. It was our restraint. And what happens when that restraint is finally lifted? Far away, in a fortress on the Valoran homeworld, High Commander Raxes gathered his military council. His rage had cooled into something more dangerous. Cold determination. Mobilize everything, he ordered. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We will assemble the largest fleet this galaxy has ever seen. And we will burn Earth to ashes. His officers saluted and left to carry out their orders. Within days, thousands of warships began moving through space, converging on assembly points. The Council's military might, accumulated over millennia, prepared for war. They thought they were going to crush a rebellion. They had no idea they were about to receive an education. 3,000 warships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. They came from every corner of the galaxy, representing the combined military might of the Galactic Council. The Lauren dreadnoughts bristled with weapons. Corthan carriers released swarms of fighter craft. Ashira energy ships pulsed with deadly power. Drexian cruisers moved in perfect formation, thought it was the largest fleet ever assembled. Enough firepower to destroy a dozen worlds. Enough soldiers to conquer 100 systems. High Commander Raxes stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the distant blue planet that dared to defy the Council. Around him, his officers monitored their stations, reporting fleet positions and weapon status. "All ships in position, Commander," one officer reported. "We have Earth completely surrounded." Raxes nodded. "Open a channel to the planet. Let them see what they face." The communication went out on all frequencies. Raxus's image appeared on every screen across Earth and throughout the system. "Humans of Earth," he began, his voice booming. "You have committed acts of war against the Galactic Council. You have destroyed our ships. You have rejected our authority. You have spread lies and propaganda to turn other species against us. For these crimes, we offer you one final chance. Surrender immediately. Disarm completely. Submit to Council justice. If you refuse, we will reduce your planet to dust." On Earth, in the military command center deep beneath the Swiss mountains, Admiral Jiho Kang watched the transmission with tired eyes. Around him, his staff waited for orders. "What an impressive speech," Jiho said dryly. "Did he practice it?" His second in command, a woman named Sora, allowed herself a small smile. "Should we respond, Admiral?" "Of course. Send a simple message." One word, no. The message went out. On his flagship, Raxes received it and snarled. He had expected fear. He had expected begging. Instead, he got defiance. "All ships," he commanded. "Attack formation. Advance on Earth. Destroy anything that gets in your way." The massive fleet began moving forward. Thousands of ships, their weapons powered up, ready to demonstrate the full might of the Council. They hadn't traveled far when their sensors started picking up strange readings. There were objects scattered throughout the space around Earth. Thousands of them. Small platforms, each one no larger than a transport shuttle. They looked insignificant compared to the massive warships bearing down on them. Raxes laughed when he saw them. "Those are their defenses? Pathetic." He ordered 200 ships to break formation and destroy the platforms. The ships accelerated, weapons charging, confident in their superiority. Captain Minho Park, now commanding the Earth vessel Silent Thunder, watched the Council ships approach. His ship was one of 50 crewed vessels Earth had deployed. The rest of their forces were automated platforms and AI-controlled ships. "They're in range," his weapons officer reported. "Activate platforms in sectors 7 through 12. Minho ordered calmly. The platforms came to life. They didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, they did something that made the laws of physics seem like gentle suggestions. Space itself warped around the attacking Council ships. Reality tore open in carefully calculated points, creating tiny singularities that lasted only milliseconds but appeared exactly where they needed to be. The 200 Council ships found themselves pulled in different directions by gravitational forces that shouldn't exist. Some were stretched like rubber, their hulls failing as they were torn apart. Others were compressed into points smaller than a grain of sand before disappearing entirely. A few simply blinked out of existence, scattered across multiple dimensions. In 30 seconds, 200 warships were gone. The main Council fleet stopped dead. On every bridge, commanders stared at their sensors in disbelief. Their ships had just been destroyed by an enemy they couldn't even properly detect. Raxes stood frozen, unable to process what he'd just witnessed. His officers looked to him for orders, but he had none to give. Nothing in his centuries of military experience had prepared him for this. Then the platforms around Earth reconfigured. Instead of weapons, they became something else entirely. A massive holographic projection system, creating images visible across the entire solar system. Data began appearing. Centuries worth of data, files, records, evidence. Captain Minho's voice broadcast across all frequencies. "You came here to teach us a lesson. We appreciate the gesture, but we think it's time we taught you one instead. Watch carefully. The holographic display showed Earth's true technological level. Quantum manipulation devices that could restructure matter at the atomic level. Faster-than-light engines that didn't need hyperspace lanes. Artificial intelligence systems more advanced than anything the Council had ever created. Medical technology that could cure diseases the Council considered incurable. Energy sources that could power a city from a device the size of a suitcase. Then the display showed Earth's actual presence in the galaxy. Mining operations in star systems light years from Earth. Automated factories. Building ships and equipment on uninhabited worlds. Research stations studying phenomena the Council didn't even know existed. Exploration vessels that had mapped regions of space the Council had never reached. The Council fleet watched in stunned silence as they realized the truth. Humanity hadn't been trapped in their single system for 2 centuries. They'd been exploring, building, and advancing while pretending to be weak and limited. The display continued, showing Earth's military capabilities. Not the 73-old ships the Council knew about, but thousands of advanced vessels. Weapons that could disassemble matter at the quantum level. Shields that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Defensive systems that could protect entire planets. Admiral Jiho's face appeared in the holographic display, addressing the Council fleet directly. "For 200 years, we could have conquered you," he said simply. "We had the technology. We had the weapons. We had the capability. We chose not to. We chose to remain silent, to watch, to hope you would evolve into something worthy of respect." He paused, his expression hardening. "You have proven us wrong at every opportunity. You built a system based on oppression. You exploited younger species. You hoarded technology to maintain your power. You became exactly the kind of empire that humanity swore it would never allow to threaten the galaxy." The display changed again, showing internal Council communications. Secret agreements to divide resources from conquered worlds. Plans to suppress technological development in younger species. Records of civilizations that had been destroyed when they became too advanced, too independent. "We have all of this," Jiho continued. "Every secret, every crime, every betrayal. And we're releasing it to every species in the galaxy right now. Let them see what the Council really is." On his flagship, Raxes found his voice again. "This is a trick. Lies and fabrications." But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't true. The data was too detailed, too complete. Some of it came from his own personal files. Communications he thought were secure and encrypted. Ambassador Yuna's face replaced Admiral Jiho's in the display. She stood on what appeared to be a viewing platform on Earth, with the blue planet visible behind her. "The Council fleet will withdraw immediately," she said. Her voice was calm but carried absolute authority. "Resolution 7749 is void. Any attempt to enforce it, on Earth or any other younger species, will be met with immediate response. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact." Raxes slammed his fist on his command console. "We outnumber them. We can overwhelm their defenses through sheer numbers." His tactical officer shook his head. "Commander, our analysis suggests otherwise. Their technology is centuries beyond ours. Those platforms destroyed 200 ships in seconds. We count over 10,000 similar platforms. If they're all armed with the same weapons." The officer didn't need to finish. The math was simple and terrible. The Council fleet couldn't win this fight. Dr. Hannah Lee, watching from her laboratory on Earth, saw something else in the Council fleet's formations. Fear. The ships were drifting, their formations falling apart as individual captains reconsidered their orders. She opened a communication channel directly to the Council flagship. I, Commander Raxus. This is Dr. Hana Lee, Director of Earth's Quantum Research Program. I want you to understand something. The weapons you just saw, those are 50 years old. Our current technology is far more advanced. We could end this battle in seconds. We could destroy your entire fleet before you even realized you were under attack. She paused, letting that sink in. But we won't, because unlike you, we understand that strength without restraint is just barbarism. We're giving you a choice. Leave now and live. Keep fighting and learn why humanity's patience finally has limits. The communication ended. On the Council flagship, Raxi stood in silence, his mind racing through possibilities, all of them ending in defeat. The Council fleet began its withdrawal. Ship by ship, the massive armada turned away from Earth and prepared to jump to hyperspace. Most commanders were relieved. They had seen enough to know that continuing the battle would be suicide. But High Commander Raxus stood on his flagship bridge, watching Earth grow smaller on the view screen, and felt only burning rage. He had commanded fleets for 200 years. He had conquered 30 systems. He had never retreated. He had never been humiliated. He would not accept it now. As his ship prepared to jump away with the others, Raxus quietly sent an encrypted message to a secret facility on the Valoran homeworld. The message contained just 2 words: execute Sunfall. Operation Sunfall had been developed decades ago as a final weapon against enemies who could not be defeated conventionally. It was forbidden by every galactic treaty. Even the Council had agreed never to use it. But Raxus no longer cared about treaties or agreements. If he could not have victory, he would have revenge. 300 small Valoran stealth ships had been waiting in a hidden asteroid field at the far edge of the Sol system. They had been there for weeks, positioned long before the main fleet arrived. Each ship carried a single weapon, a Nova bomb, designed to trigger a chain reaction in a star. 1 bomb could destabilize a sun. 300 would guarantee its destruction. The stealth ships activated their cloaking systems and began moving toward Earth's sun. Their technology was old but effective, bending light around their hulls and making them nearly invisible to standard sensors. But Earth sensors were not standard. In her laboratory, Dr. Hana Lee received an alert from the quantum monitoring network humanity had deployed throughout the galaxy. The network used entangled particles to detect movements and energy signatures across vast distances. It had been watching the Valoran homeworld for months. "Admiral," she said into her communicator, her voice urgent. "We have a problem. 300 Valoran stealth ships just activated. They're carrying Nova bombs, heading straight for the sun." Admiral Jiho felt his blood run cold. Time to impact? 4 hours at their current speed. The bombs will all detonate simultaneously. If they succeed, she didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what would happen. The sun would go nova, destroying everything in the solar system. Earth, Mars, every station, every ship. Billions of people would die. Can we intercept them? Jiho asked. Possibly, but not all of them. They're scattered across too wide an approach vector. If even 1 bomb reaches the sun, it's over. Jiho closed his eyes for a moment, thinking. Then he made his decision. Activate the solar shield protocol. Dr. Hana stared at her screen. "Sir, we've never tested that on a real star. The theory is sound, but if something goes wrong, if we do nothing, we're dead anyway. Activate it." Around Earth's sun, thousands of quantum platforms that had been orbiting silently for decades suddenly came online. They had been built for this exact scenario. Though no one had ever believed they'd actually need to be used, the platforms began generating a quantum stasis field, a bubble of altered space-time that would freeze everything within it. The target was the sun itself. Captain Minho watched from the silent thunder as the platforms activated. Energy readings spiked across his displays. Space around the sun began to shimmer and distort. "This is insane," his second-in-command whispered. "We're trying to freeze a star." "Not freeze," Minho corrected. "Just slow its time to almost zero. If it works, the sun won't react to anything for a few minutes. Long enough for the bomb energy to dissipate harmlessly. And if it doesn't work..." Minho didn't answer. They both knew what would happen. The Valoran stealth ships reached their target coordinates. 300 captains, all loyal to Raxes, prepared to fire their weapons. They had been told this was a necessary sacrifice, that humanity's defiance threatened the entire galactic order. They activated their Nova bombs, simultaneously, 300 devices, each containing enough exotic matter to trigger a stellar collapse, detonated. The energy release was incredible, equivalent to thousands of supernovas compressed into a single moment. The explosions converged on the sun, waves of destructive force designed to penetrate deep into the star's core and trigger a runaway fusion reaction. On Earth, people looked up at the sky as the sun seemed to flicker. For a moment, it grew brighter, painful to look at even with eyes closed. Then the quantum stasis field stabilized. Time stopped for the sun. Not completely, but slowed to a crawl. The Nova bomb energy hit the solar surface and spread across it like fire on water. But the sun didn't react. The fusion reactions in its core continued at their normal pace, unaffected by the outside assault, because from the sun's perspective, the attack was happening infinitely slowly. The bomb energy, with nowhere to go and no chain reaction to feed, began to dissipate. The quantum platforms channeled it away, bleeding the deadly force across dimensional barriers into empty space, millions of light years away. It took 90 seconds. 90 seconds during which every person on Earth held their breath. 90 seconds during which the fate of billions hung in balance. Then Dr. Hana's voice came over the command center speakers. "Stasis field stable. Bomb energy at 15% and dropping. 10%. 5%. 0. The sun is safe." The stasis field collapsed. Time resumed its normal flow for the star. The sun continued burning as it had for billions of years, completely unharmed. Earth had just survived an attempt at genocide. "Admiral." Jiho's hand shook as he realized what had almost happened. Then his expression hardened into something cold and terrible. "Destroy those stealth ships," he ordered. "Every single one. And send our fleets to the Council homeworlds. All of them." Captain Minho carried out the order with grim efficiency. Earth's warships, hidden throughout the solar system, emerged and began hunting down the Valoran stealth ships. The ship's cloaking technology was useless against quantum sensors. Within minutes, all 300 vessels were identified and destroyed. But that was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, thousands of Earth ships that had been waiting in hidden locations suddenly revealed themselves. They appeared in orbit around every major Council homeworld simultaneously. Not attacking, not threatening, just there, waiting. The message was clear. Earth could strike anywhere at any time. The Council's homeworlds, their centers of power, their most protected systems, were all vulnerable. Admiral Jiho opened a galaxy-wide broadcast. His face appeared on every screen, every display, every communication device across thousands of worlds. "The Valoran Empire just attempted to destroy Earth's sun," he said, his voice completely calm. 300 ships carrying Nova bombs. If they had succeeded, 8 billion people would have died. Our entire civilization would have been wiped out. He paused, letting that information spread. "We stopped them. We saved our sun. We saved our people. And now, every species in this galaxy needs to understand something. Earth ships are currently in position around every Council homeworld. We could end your civilizations in the time it takes you to read this message. Another pause. But we won't. Because unlike High Commander Rax's, we understand that genocide is not justice. We understand that strength without morality is just barbarism. His expression grew harder. However, this aggression cannot go unanswered. The Valaran Empire attempted to commit an act of extinction. Raxes and everyone involved in Operation Sunfall will stand trial. If the Council refuses to hand them over, we will come and get them ourselves. The broadcast ended. On the Valaran homeworld, panic spread through the military command. Officers scrambled to find Raxes, to arrest him before Earth did it for them. The Valaran civilian government, realizing their military had nearly started a war that would destroy their entire species, moved quickly to distance themselves from Raxus's actions. In the Galactic Council chamber, representatives gathered in emergency session. The other major powers, seeing Earth's ships orbiting their homeworlds, understood that they had lost. Completely and utterly. The Ashira collective speaker shimmered forward. We will hand over Raxes and all involved in the attack. We will accept Earth's demands. We have no other choice. The Korthan representative agreed. Our hive calculations show that resistance is extinction. We choose survival. Even the Drexian Federation, who had remained silent throughout most of the crisis, acknowledged reality. Earth has demonstrated absolute technological superiority. We surrendered to their authority. Ambassador Yuna stood before the Council and felt no triumph, only exhaustion. She had hoped it wouldn't come to this. She had hoped the Council would back down before trying something so desperate and evil. Raxes and 300 ship commanders will stand trial, she said. They will face justice for attempted genocide. The galaxy will see what happens to those who try to solve their problems by killing billions of innocent people. She looked around at the other representatives. And then, we're going to rebuild this council into something it should have been from the beginning. An actual community. An alliance of equals. No more major powers. No more exploitation. No more oppression. The representatives said nothing. They had no choice but to agree. Earth had won. The trial of High Commander Raxes took place on a neutral space station, built specifically for the occasion. Representatives from every species in the galaxy attended, either in person or through holographic projection. The trial was broadcast live across all worlds, watched by trillions of beings. Ambassador Yuna served as the lead prosecutor. She stood before the Galactic Court in her simple black suit, facing Raxes, who sat in a containment field designed to hold even the strongest beings. High Commander Raxes, Yuna began, her voice steady and clear. You are charged with attempted genocide against the people of Earth. 300 Nova bombs, designed to destroy our sun and kill 8 billion people. How do you plead? Raxes glared at her with hatred. I did what was necessary to protect the Council's authority. That's not an answer to the question, Yuna said calmly. Did you or did you not order Operation Sunfall? Raxes was silent for a moment, then spoke. I did. The chamber erupted in whispers and shocked sounds. Even those who had suspected the truth were stunned to hear him admit it so openly. Yun spent the next 3 days presenting evidence. Communication logs showing Raxes planning the operation. Records of the Nova bombs being manufactured in secret. Testimony from Valaran officers who had objected to the plan and been silenced. Video footage of the bombs being deployed. But Yuna didn't stop there. She went further, presenting evidence of other crimes Raxes had committed over his long military career. Attacks on civilian populations. The destruction of a peaceful species called the Moran because they refused to surrender their resources. The use of biological weapons on a colony world. The evidence was overwhelming. The court found Raxes guilty on all charges. Then came the sentencing phase. Many expected execution. Some species called for it loudly. But Una had other ideas. The easy thing would be to kill him, she told the court. It would be quick. It would be final. But it would also be meaningless. Raxes would die never understanding what he did wrong, never facing the consequences of his actions. She walked closer to the containment field, looking directly at Raxes. Instead, I propose this. Raxes and all 300 ship commanders who participated in Operation Sunfall will serve 50 years of labor. They will help rebuild the Moran civilization that Raxes destroyed 40 years ago. They will work under the supervision of the Moran survivors. They will see every day what their actions cost. They will live with what they've done. The Moran representative, a small being with silver skin and large eyes, stood. We accept this sentence. We want them to see. We want them to understand. The court agreed. Raxes and his commanders were taken away to begin their sentence. As he was led from the chamber, Raxes looked back at Una. You think this makes you better than me? He asked. Una met his eyes. No, it makes us different. And that difference is everything. With the trial concluded, the real work began. The Galactic Council was dissolved and reformed into the Galactic Assembly. Every species received one vote, regardless of their size, technology level, or age. The concept of major powers was eliminated entirely. Captain Minho addressed the first session of the new assembly. He had been chosen to represent Earth, taking over from Ambassador Una, who had decided to retire after 200 years of service. The old council was built on a lie, Minho told the gathered representatives. The lie that some species were inherently superior to others. That age meant wisdom. That strength meant authority. Earth has proven that lie false. He gestured to the holographic display showing Earth's technology. We are not superior because we're stronger. We're effective because we focused on understanding rather than controlling. We asked different questions. Instead of, how can we dominate others? We asked, how does the universe work? Instead of, how can we take more? We asked, how can we help people? He paused, looking around the chamber. Every advancement we made started with that question. How does this help people? Not how does this help us conquer? Not how does this help us control? Just help. That simple difference in approach led to everything you've seen. The assembly listened in silence. Earth will share some of our technology with you. Minho continued. Not weapons. We won't help you build better ways to kill each other. But medicine, energy systems, agricultural techniques, anything that improves lives. We'll share that freely. A representative from a younger species stood. Why? What do you want in return? Minho smiled. We want you to do the same. When you make breakthroughs, share them. When you discover something that helps people, tell others. We want a galaxy where knowledge flows freely, where cooperation is valued over competition, where we all rise together. The representative sat down. Looking thoughtful, Dr. Hannah Lee took charge of the technology sharing program. She set up research centers on dozens of worlds, teaching other species the fundamentals of quantum physics. Not weapons applications, but the pure science that could lead to clean energy, faster communication, better medicine. The knowledge was always there in the universe, she told her students. We just had to look for it. Now you can look too. Maybe you'll see things we missed. Maybe you'll make discoveries that surprise us. That's what collaboration means. Admiral Jiho retired from military service, satisfied that Earth would never need to use its weapons again. His final act was to order the construction of a memorial on Earth for everyone who had died in the conflict, including the crew members of the original 3 council ships that had been destroyed. They were following orders, he said at the memorial's dedication. Bad orders from corrupt leaders. But they were still people with families, with dreams, with lives. We remember them not as enemies, but as victims of the system we've now changed. Ambassador Yuna spent her retirement writing. She published a detailed account of Earth's 200 years in the Council, explaining the strategy behind humanity's silence. We watched, she wrote. We learned. We understood that rushing to prove ourselves would have made us just another power-hungry empire. So we waited. We developed not just technology, but wisdom. We made sure that when we finally revealed our strength, it would be for the right reasons. Her book became required reading in schools across the galaxy. Years passed. The Galactic Assembly grew stronger. Technology sharing led to breakthroughs that benefited everyone. Species that had been enemies for centuries found common ground. The younger species, freed from exploitation, began to flourish. Captain Minho became the Assembly's first elected leader, chosen not because Earth was powerful, but because he represented the principles the Assembly was built on. He served one term, then stepped aside to let someone else lead. Power should never be permanent, he said in his farewell speech. The moment someone thinks they deserve to rule, they've already lost the right to do so. Dr. Hana made her greatest discovery 5 years after the Assembly formed. A way to communicate instantly across any distance using quantum entanglement. She immediately shared the plans with every species in the galaxy. Within a decade, every inhabited world was connected. Messages that once took months to deliver now arrived instantly. The galaxy felt smaller, more connected, more united. On Earth, people went about their lives much as they always had. The planet didn't change much after the conflict. There were no parades, no monuments to military victory. Instead, Earth built schools, libraries, and research centers. Admiral Jiho, now an old man, spent his final days teaching at a military academy. His students were from dozens of different species, all learning about strategy, ethics, and the proper use of force. Remember this, he told his last class before he died. The goal of any military should be to make itself unnecessary. Every weapon we build should be a reminder that we failed to solve a problem peacefully. Every battle we fight should teach us how to avoid the next one. His funeral was attended by representatives from every species in the Assembly. They honored him not as a warrior, but as a teacher. 20 years after the conflict, the Assembly sent out its first deep space exploration mission. A joint effort involving 50 species. The mission would travel beyond known space to search for other civilizations. The lead ship was commanded by a Valoran captain named Kira, whose grandfather had served under Raxes. She volunteered for the mission as a way to prove that her species had changed. "We're not conquerors anymore," she said at the mission launch. "We're explorers. We're friends. We're partners. That's what Earth taught us. That's what the Assembly means." The ship departed to cheers from across the galaxy. Dr. Hana, now elderly herself, sent one final message into deep space. It was carried by quantum signals that would travel faster than light, reaching distant galaxies in years instead of millennia. To anyone who might be listening, the message began. We are the Galactic Assembly. We are thousands of species living together in peace. We were not always peaceful. We made mistakes. We hurt each other. We nearly destroyed ourselves. But we learned. We changed. We chose cooperation over domination, wisdom over strength, unity over division. If you're out there, if you're listening, know this, you are not alone. The universe is vast and sometimes frightening. But somewhere in this darkness, there are friends waiting. There are partners ready to stand with you. There is a community that will welcome you as equals. Earth remains silent